In this video, we will structure our Redux TypeScript application. So in the previous video, we set up our store and our actions and our reducer, and we came up with a very simple Redux app. And all it did is it managed the state of a counter. So if you click the add button, it would increment the counter from 0 to 1 or 2 or 3, and if you press the minus button, it would subtract 1 from that counter score. And the way we did this was we created an action. So an action was an event listener for the click event, and the action itself, we dispatched an action to the store of the type add and the type minus, and then the store handles that by calling a reducer, and the reducer has the initial state in it, and depending on the action type, add or minus, we created the new state due to the global state being immutable. And for the particular action type, we either incremented the state or we decremented the state, else we just returned the initial state. And we subscribed to those changes, so we'll be able to detect those and update our UI by subscribing to those. And we did have to call the render function once, which essentially manipulated the DOM to the getting the state of the store and displaying that. Now in this video, what I want to do firstly is I want to structure this application in a way such that if our application grows, and if you're using Redux, we expect the application to be large enough to require the state management of the application. I'm just going to come up with one simple structure for a TypeScript approach. So right now the current folder system is just a source folder and an index.ts file. Now I've outlined in this summary MD file that in our source folder, in addition to our index TypeScript file, which we want to strip back, we want to have a store, and this store folder is going to have our root store in it, and we're also going to have the particular type in another folder. So for this particular, for these actions, adding and subtracting, we have this operation, and they have an action and a reducer. And I've structured this in this way because not so much for this application here, but for the growth of an application, when we were to add more things in, we need it to be easily managed. And that's one of the benefits of Redux is, okay, there is the initial setup phase where you have to set everything up, but once you've set it up and you've got the structure there, you've got a really powerful architecture to be able to handle state management effectively throughout our application. So this simple structure here is expanded if we were to add another if we had another whole section here, and we will add another section in the next video, we could easily just make another folder and add its own action and reducer, and we can hook this up at the root store and have the minimal code in the index file that's calling it. And this holds true for the frameworks as well, where perhaps this index TypeScript file, this will just be replaced with your component, whatever your component is, whatever your view is. This is just your view where you call your action. You just need that spot where you dispatch your action, and then this sort of store architecture is how those actions get dispatched to the store and handled by the reducer to update the UI seamlessly throughout our application. And it is beneficial for large applications that have that interdependent state, such as like a large React or Angular sort of project, or even just general TypeScript itself. So it's really important to understand why you're actually using it, why we're using Redux. And you don't necessarily have to use Redux. It's good to know when you might need to. So the key take home from this spiel is that, okay, you want to use Redux if you're having a hard time managing your state. So you have multiple components throughout your application, and a change in one particular component, it shouldn't have a detrimental effect, or it should be consistent throughout the different components. And this comes more into play when you have like nesting of components, such as pop-ups and pop-ups within pop-ups, and you've got to pass your application state around. It also offers like a cleaner sort of architecture rather than having one massive folder that's doing everything, or even in Angular when you're using different services and stuff like that. It's based on the flux pattern, and having that consistent sort of architected way how to do or handle the state, it's just there is the initial cost of the setup, but if you're working on a decent sized project or with other team members and you need a consistent way to be able to achieve that, this is where Redux will come in handy. So with all that said, let's actually refactor this. So right now we've got it all in this index.ts file. So we'll go ahead and in our source folder, we'll create the file and the folder, sorry, and we'll create our store. And we'll go ahead and we'll just create our root store.ts. And we'll also go ahead and we will make our operation folder. And this will have an operation action, and it will also have a operation reducer. And I haven't added the models just yet. I just want to separate the code out before I add the TypeScript interfaces and that to it. But notice that I have a capital first letter for each of the words in for the action and reducers. So first things first, we want to set up our root store. And okay, we can close this now. We can close these two as well. So our store, we just want to create this store. So we can copy this create store and we can put it in over here. And we're going to import the reducer here as well, but we don't have that just yet. And what we want to do is we want to actually export the store. So we can copy this out as well, and we can do some things here, and then we can export the store. And this store will take this operation reducer, which we need to create. And it's very simple. We've already actually created it. We just need to get it. So we can pretty much just copy this switch statement here. And this is our reducer. So I'll delete these comments here. Now that we have a specific area designated spot for that code. So in our reducer, and all we have to do is just export this this function, this pure function. And the good thing about it being a pure function is we can just move it easily like this, and that's just doing something for our state. So now we can go back to our root store and we can import this, and this is the operation reducer, so that's just right there. and that's going to be from, and that's just right in the operation folder, and that's the operation reducer. So I am going to add a combine reducer here, and this is from the Redux store. And what this will do is it's going to allow us to scale our application. So right now we've only got one reducer, but let's imagine we had another reducer for another set of actions. We want to be able to easily add that. So what we can do is just below these imports here, we can make our root reducer, and we can combine the reducers. This should be combine reducers, sorry, not reducer singular. And this just takes a object here, and this is just the reducers we have. So right now we've only got the one, and I'm just going to say operation reducer. I'll just give it the same name as what it is to make it easy to identify, and I can just replace this reducer here with the root reducer, and we'll see in a later video, in the next video, adding a second reducer to that. So that's given us the options to be able to expand our application. So we've got the root store set up, and we've also got the operation reducer set up. Now what we want to do is we want to get our operation action set up. So we can just go back over to this index file over here, and we can copy that action in. Okay, we're going to need our store, and our root store is now located over here. So we can import that, and that's just from, go back a directory, and that's just the root store. And what we can do is we can create some functions based off our actions. So let's just copy this for now. We'll delete it from the operation action section, but we'll use it as a guide. And what we first can do is we need some action creators. So to call, we want to call, rather than call these actions here like this, we want to actually call the actions from the specified section that they're allocated to. And this is the operation action TypeScript file. So I want to create some what's known as action creators. So to do this, and we'll write this down, action creators, I'll just make an arrow function add, so I can call this add function. And this add function, it's going to return a particular type of add. And we need to specify these action types more like in a variable format. So we can create this add, and notice that it's all uppercase for these actions. That's just for readability purposes mainly, and its convention. And we'll also have the -1, which will just be minus, it's just a string minus. And rather than have the string there like that, and once again it needs the arrow function there, and I can copy this, and instead of having that, I can have minus, and this is uppercase, so I'll just do a Control-Shift-P, transform to uppercase there. And okay, now this is just returning the type. What we need to do is we need to create what's known as a bound action creator, and this which will automatically dispatch. So it automatically dispatches, and this is what we're exporting to consume in our index.ts file. So we need to export that, and I'm just going to give it the prefix of bound to denote that it's a bound action creator, and this is just an arrow function, and this is going to call the store. So we've got the store. We no longer need this here. This was mainly to say that we're dispatching action from the store of the type add or minus, but you know, we've got this return type here of add and minus, and we can dispatch this by calling the store, dispatching it, and then, you know, calling the function that we need. So we can say add here. So essentially all we did is we just refactored it so it can be consumed elsewhere, namely in the index.ts file. And this bound add, this can be minus, and this is lowercase m here, minus. So we've created our bound action creator, which automatically dispatches. So that just means we just have to call this bound add and bound minus function from where we called it, and they'll automatically dispatch the action to the store for us, which is, you know, the return type here, which is this. So we've got the type add here, which was being dispatched like that, but in this allocated section here, you know, we have this type add here, and through this arrow function syntax sort of thing, we're effectively just calling it in a different way. So it can be consumed like this, bound add and bound minus, oops, bound minus. And we will need to import these. So I'll just save that, and we can see we get an error here. And what I'll do is I'll just I'll import those. So we can start to see already that this index.ts file is quite minified. So let's just go ahead and import bound add and bound minus. These are coming from the store. So in the current directory, we go to the store, go to the operation, and then we go to the operation action. And now the squiggly line has been removed. We'll also need the store. So let's go ahead and import the store. The root store. So one thing that we've changed is the root store. We now have this root reducer with this combined reducers. So to be able to detect the particular reducer, like for example this state with count, we need to actually call this reducer that it's on to detect which which area we're in. And we can do that just by after the state saying the state of the operation reducer, and we'll get the count. And with that, that is all we need here. And if we control save that, we can see that if we open our state of our application here, we can add, and minus. So it's still in the same thing, but the way we've done it is we've refactored it so it's scalable, and we'll see in the next video of that being scalable. And I might add the TypeScript in the next video as well. So stay tuned for that one. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.